Albedo is pretty damn good. What's going on, guys? Mira here, back again with another Genshin Impact video, and today I have a guide for you, and the character that we are featuring today will be the new 5-star character Albedo. So right now I have my Albedo at level 70 and he is Constellation 0. So he is definitely very achievable, and I do see him as a very low cost support DPS character to build. So if you are looking for a support DPS slash sub DPS, he will be a great addition to your team, especially if you have Zhongli, which I will get into a little bit later. But for now, I do want to get into some of his skills. So for his elemental skill, Solar Isotoma, Albedo creates a Solar Isotoma using alchemy which deal AoE geo damage on appearance. So for this part, the initial damage, it does scale with attack percent and of course the normal stuff such as geo damage and crit damage. But after that, there is a secondary effect, and this is where the bulk of Albedo's damage come from. So when enemies within the Solar Isotoma field take damage, the Solar Isotoma will generate Transient Blossoms, which deal AoE geo damage, scaling off of his defense. So like I said, his main bulk of his damage does come from the defense scaling and also the Transient Blossoms. So you definitely do want to focus a little bit more on his defense. So I do suggest building some substats defense percent on his artifacts. Moving on to his Elemental Burst, under Albedo's command, Geocrystals search and burst forth, dealing AoE geo damage in front of him. If a Solar Isotoma created by Albedo himself is on the field, 7 Fatal Blossoms will be generated in the Solar Isotoma field, bursting violently into bloom and dealing AoE geo damage. Tectonic type damage and Fatal Blossom damage will not generate Transient Blossoms. So basically, he is a character that is really reliant on his elemental skill, more so than his elemental burst. But of course, his elemental burst does have a pretty nice damage scaling, and of course, it has a short cooldown and a low energy cost as well. So I do want to demonstrate his kit for you guys. So as you can see here, I am a level 70 Albedo, and I am dealing with level 80 monsters. But do take note, over here, as I hit them, you will see that it deals quite a lot of damage. So when the opponents are hit, they will take the Transient Blossom damage, and the Transient Blossom damage does scale out to be pretty good. So like I said, if you have Zhongli on the field, you can use his Elemental Resonance, and with that, he will... I mean, just look at this. This is some insane damage. So I just want to demonstrate the Elemental Burst as well. So the Elemental Burst does a pretty hefty chunk of damage, as you can see, 6.5k damage, and that is just really nice, right? So especially when you have characters or enemies stuck within the walls and they're taking a lot of this Geo Resonance, you will see that you are dealing a lot of damage with Albedo. Next, we move on to his weapons. So for his weapons, right now I do have the Favonius Sword equipped on Albedo, but that is only because I don't have the new 4-star sword Festering Desire on him. So if you do have the Festering Desire, that would be probably the weapon of choice, but right now I haven't done the event, so I am using the Favonius Sword, which is a great alternative because it does give energy recharge, which is really nice, especially for Albedo, because his Q just has a really short cooldown, so you want to use it as often as possible, and having that energy recharge will enable you to use it as often as possible. So next we move on to his artifacts, and as you can see here, I am using the 2-piece Archaic Petra and the 2-piece Noblesse Oblige, and I have found this set to be one of the better sets to use on Albedo, if not the best. And you can substitute the 2-piece Noblesse Oblige for 2-piece Gladiator if you so wish. That would just give him a little bit more damage on his normal attacks, and also a little bit more damage on his initial elemental skill damage, but not on his elemental skill Transient Blossoms. So do take note, only the initial damage will be affected by the Gladiator set effect. So the Noblesse Oblige is just really nice because his cooldown is really short on his Elemental Burst, and his energy cost is really low, so he does get his Q pretty often. So having that Noblesse Oblige will just give you an extra 20%, which is really nice on his Elemental Burst. So let's take a look at my artifacts real quick. So for his artifact substats, you definitely want Energy Recharge, Defense, and also crit rate and crit damage. So as you can see here, I have my flower with 2 lines of defense and 1 line of energy recharge and crit damage. So this is pretty good for him. And moving on to his feather, you can see the exact same 4 lines. And I hope that, you know, as I level this up, I will get more crit damage. That is kind of like what I am looking for. And moving on to the timepiece. So for the timepiece, you want attack percent on his main stat and some defense in his substat. So my rolls aren't really the best, and I do hope to switch it out sometime in the future as I do get better substats. But for now, this will have to do. And for the goblet, you definitely want geo damage bonus. There is no other main stats that are as good. So for his goblet, I am using just a random goblet that gives me geo damage bonus, and we also have some defense and defense percent as well as some nice attack percent on it. So I'm pretty satisfied with this goblet, and I will be using it for a pretty substantial amount of time. And lastly, for the circlet, I am using a crit rate circlet. But of course, if you are using the black sword, which is also a good alternative for his weapon, then you might have enough crit rate, and in which case then you might want to go for crit damage main stat on his mask instead. So this is pretty subjective depending on what you have built on your Albedo. If you don't have enough crit rate, obviously then you have to go for crit rate on the mask. But if you do have enough crit rate, then you can go for crit damage instead. Lastly, we get into team composition for Albedo. So because Albedo is a really solid sub DPS, he will be able to fit into any team almost flawlessly. But there is one thing that you could build on Albedo that will be extremely good, and that is Zhongli. So Zhongli, as you saw previously from the Elemental Resonance or the Geo Resonance from Zhongli's Geo Pillars, it will deal a lot of damage because Zhongli's Elemental Resonance with Albedo's E will deal a lot of damage, and you will activate the Transient Blossoms, which will do even more damage. So that is just a lot of passive damage that is coming out from the field, and you don't really have to do anything. You just have to go into Zhongli, press his pillar, and then go into Albedo and press his E, and you just have a ton of just passive damage lying on the ground, and enemies within that area will just take a lot of damage without you having to do anything. And after that, you can go into your main DPS, which in my case would be Diluc, and he would just be able to deal a lot of extra DPS with that Pyro Resonance with Bennett. So this is a really solid team to have if you do have all the characters. Otherwise, you can substitute Diluc with some other Pyro DPS, and with Bennett on the banner right now, you can always use him as a healer and also as a damage amplification unit. So this is the team that I definitely recommend you guys try out. But if you don't have this exact setup, not to worry. Albedo is a solid sub DPS that would fit into almost any team. So you would just have your main DPS, Albedo, an enabler, and probably a healer, and that would still work perfectly. So you don't have to worry too much about Albedo because he is off the Geo element, and he doesn't really have that much of a reaction. So you can just pretty much throw him into any team and he will work. So lastly, I know a lot of you people are going to be asking, should you be pulling for Albedo or not? And I want to say that yes, you should be pulling for Albedo, but it still largely depends on what you need in your team. And what Albedo provides to a team is a lot of passive DPS, where he doesn't need to be on the field and he will be able to deal a lot of DPS. And after that, you can just switch into him and press his Q for that extra DPS. And after that, press E and then just go back to your main damage dealer. So he is a support that does a lot of DPS, and if you do need such a unit, he is definitely good to pull. And especially if you do have Zhongli, their synergy is insane, and you should definitely pull for Albedo if you have Zhongli. So yeah, this is just a quick video on Albedo, and I hope this video has helped you guys decide if you should pull for Albedo or not. And if you did enjoy this video, do remember to leave a like on this video and also subscribe to the channel. That would help me very much. Likewise, if you have any questions regarding Albedo, be it his weapon, his team composition, or anything, do feel free to drop them in the comments section below as well. Also, if you have any suggestions regarding his build, do also feel free to drop them in the comment section below. Lastly, I have a Discord server, so if you are interested in joining that, do feel free to join it. The link is in the description below. So yeah, that's all I have for you guys for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace!